Well, my name is Robert. Like he said, I'm from the northern tier of Pennsylvania, Bradford County specifically. My background is graphic design. I went to Pennsylvania College of Technology in Williamsport. Let's see. Whoops. So my project is 52 Quest Adventure playing cards. Oops. Oh, oops, went too far. All right. Yep, my background, I've been producing playing cards since 2013. Currently, I'm working at T. Ross Brothers, where we're doing a scavenger hunt. Last year was our first scavenger hunt, where last year we used posters. So we partnered with about 70 different businesses throughout the area, and we'd have posters, and these posters would have clues and riddles. When people decoded these clues, it would lead from one business to another, and eventually to keys that we had hidden in the community. We had 10 keys. So fast forward to June, I decided, all right, with Barclay Mountain, how do I monetize that business? How do I take a scavenger hunt and actually make money off of it? Not that, that might sound like a bad thing, I don't know, but so I came up with pizza boxes. So what looks like a pizza box is actually a Monopoly board, but it's actually tied to a scavenger hunt. So when people scan these QR codes, they're set on a series of challenges, and when they do challenges, they find out clues and so forth to find coins. So we had 200 of these coins hidden throughout Bradford County, and when people find them, they have a chance of winning prizes. All right, my passions are traveling and exploring and seeing new places. The product background, as I said, I've been doing playing cards since 2013. The scavenger hunt we did last year, the pizza box one we did in June. And then this, I took my experience with playing cards and decided to tie that into scavenger hunts. So with 2020, as we all know, COVID kind of hurt a lot of people at that time, and a lot of changes in my life too. I was in China at the time, January of 2020, right before COVID hit, and I was on cloud nine. My business was doing pretty good. 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, I was in China touring some playing card factories. Ended up coming back. COVID happened. Business kind of took a dive. Personal things, I kind of broke up with a long-term girlfriend that I had at the time. And I found myself living in Milton, and I don't know, things looked kind of down. So I came across this TikTok video, and it showed people like Robin Williams and Anthony Bourdain and people like that. And I'm thinking, man, it would be nice to do something to help people that are struggling. And I'm like, how can I help others if I can't help myself? And a voice went off in my head, and that gave me the inspiration for this pizza box. It said, take a look at the pizza box over there in the trash. Take that pizza box and turn it into something more than just a piece of trash. And that's, how this kind of turned into what it is. It's like a pizza box can be so much more than just a pizza box, or a deck of playing cards can be more than a deck of playing cards. So a deck of playing cards, yeah, sure, you go around and you play, your cards, your poker, your, whatever cards you want to play. But, it could be tied to an adventure. All right, so the product concept is, so we have 52 cards plus 2 jokers, technically 54, but 52 sounds better. So, and there's 52 weekends in a year, so that's going to come here shortly. QR codes on the cards will lead to online challenges. So you scan the QR code, you'll have trivia questions, you'll have challenges like go to this business, take a selfie, or go to this historical marker, take a selfie, decode different cryptic puzzles. With this, you have weekly engagement. You can time it to be as long or short as you want. So when people scan this, it'll tell you, all right, you have until December the 12th to do these challenges. And everybody that does these challenges by that date will get clues to these coins on December the 13th. So they'll go out on December the 13th looking for these coins. Let's see. Yeah, so with this project here, we partnered with a lot of businesses like we did last year. We raised over $7,000, which paid for the playing cards and gave us prize money. So on December 18th, we're going to hand out $2,000 as a grand prize, $1,000, and so forth like that. Now, moving forward, I'm already started work on a state deck, Pennsylvania state deck, and I want to do the different states of the United States. Since last Thursday, I've already raised over $2,000 for that. And in the process, I talked to a company, PA Wild's a nonprofit, and they want to do their own deck. So, right there, we can help them produce a deck. So there's that possibility as well. Now, on the back end of the card, so when people scan the QR code and they do these challenges, I can see on the back end, that they answer the questions correctly. I can see their email address. I can see the photos that they upload to the website. So we get all that information, and we can use that as social media content too. So we put it on, T. Ross Brothers or Barclay Mountain, and let people know, hey, this is, people are out there having fun. Let's see. My long-term goals is to create 10 decks of cards, before the summer of 2025. To produce the decks, let's see, it costs. The nice thing about playing cards versus pizza boxes is it has a lower threshold of profitability. So just 10 people paying me $150, I'm already in the profit for playing cards. Now, where pizza boxes, I have to raise, closer to $10,000 to get 10,000 boxes made and produced. But my goal is to get, 10 decks produced by summer. I'd like to transition this into a full-time endeavor eventually by the end of summer. And eventually expand, the team so I have other people doing this other than just myself. So those are my goals. I'm in the process of talking to some US-based printers. One is actually an on-demand printer, which would even make the threshold of profitability even lower, because if I want 50 decks, I just produce 50 decks. If I want 2,000 decks, I produce 2,000 decks. Because right now I produced by US printers before, like the United States Playing Card Company, they have a minimum of 2,500 decks. China, I can get 500 decks printed, but with print on demand, if I can work with this printer in the US, I can print 50 decks if I need 50 decks, or so forth. What I need is basically funding, or if I do like a print on demand, maybe not very much funding. Advertising expertise, because what I want to do is drive sales via Facebook to Amazon sales, to my website sales, and seeking advice. I'm not a business person. I'm not a public speaker, obviously, but I'm just a creative guy, and this is what I'd like to do.
Fantastic.
Yep.
All right, round of applause for Robert. Robin, kick us off.
Hi, Robin DeFelice. I'll try to be calm, even though I'm caffeinated and curious. And if you know me, this is probably going to be a little bit of a ride, because I got about 100 in my head right now, because card design is something I want for something I'm doing myself. But it's because I have a product for myself. But these are the things instantly in my head that came out from your presentation. Opportunities in the holiday format where you can provide cultural immersion into other holidays that aren't traditional U.S. based, so that you're creating exposure to different, the diversity of the United States or anything like that. One of the things I started thinking about with communities is, how does the advertisers or the people being investing in you, do they get some type of ability to provide hashtags? How does that become a translatable opportunity for them, merely other than they invested in its advertising? So are there ways you can perk it for them? And then in addition to that, you have a data backend. And so that data backend is where my brain started really ticking about how do you see your trends and opportunities, what you can translate back to a business and say, this is what I've seen. How do you help them see a measure of your scavenger hunt translating into something new for them or an uptick in their own sales? Because those are all things I think in the future will strengthen your ability to advertise and bring in more clientele. So I'm going to stop there and just tell you, this is super cool, and I want to run off right now and do a scavenger hunt.
For the benefit of businesses, for T-Ross, which I'm still in the planning stages, like on the fence about some things versus other things. With T-Ross, the advertisers paid an X amount, like say $200, and for $200, we gave them 20 cards, and we give these cards out for free. So that's one area there. So we're driving people to their business because, hey, go here to get a free deck of cards and also an opportunity to win $2,000. The other opportunity there for businesses is on that card on the back end. So when people scan that, they can tell anything they want. They can have a digital ad. They could have a video. They could even have a coupon. Say, hey, come to Knoebels and present this digital coupon, and then boom, you get a free pretzel or something. I don't know.
Like a total amusement park card set would be awesome. The one last thing I do have, I thought about if you permit people to pay to print their own deck. So maybe they don't want to do a full 52 weeks. Maybe they want to pick and choose and create an assortment, a variety 52 pack. Maybe you can allow people to download and print their own version of your card selection so that they can do what they want. Because maybe they've only got a couple weekends. Maybe the family's together in a location, like the Grand Canyon of Pennsylvania, and you've got the family together and you want to do some things that are just kind of geolocated. So that's another thought.
Yeah, that is a good concept. It's possible, but it would probably require more work to kind of have that set up like that. But I can see, like, if you wanted a cross-country trip and say I eventually had 50 decks for all the 50 states, say, all right, we're going to go through this, and then kind of pick and choose from those states, and then make your custom deck.
Kind of passive income. You know what I mean? You don't have to put so much sweat equity into it. Maybe that might be a revenue stream for you. Maybe mild, maybe not, but just a thought.
Yeah.
All right, who wants this cube? Hey!
Okay, so I have two different points. So first one is I am on the board of the Visitors Bureau, and we sponsored one of the scavenger hunt locations. And so, like, from our end, I know that from the staff, they've been talking that it's been good engagement and they've been seeing people come in. And so there was an initial positive reaction to that. When I think about it from a marketing perspective, so we looked at this is kind of a one-time isolated time event, right? But when you're talking about some of these state things, that's something that it's going to live on beyond just like this activity that's happening over a certain period of time. So I think one thing you'll need to think about as you monetize this is, I don't just pay for that once as a sponsorship and I'm in that forevermore. Like, how do you have recurring revenue from people to continue to sponsor their slot in their space? And then what do you do with businesses? Because not every business will still be there a year later when you go to reprint. So that was one piece. And then I also just wanted to address, you had that other question kind of off to the side of the business, but how do you know when it's time to go full time? And that's something, come and talk with us, but it's always a trajectory, and it's always hard when you're like stepping off the end. And so it's like all of those really old fashioned things of, do you have 3 to 6 months of expenses on reserve? Because in year one, you will have major ups and downs in a business. You will have times where you're on top of the world and things are going great, and then you will have no money for a little while and you'll panic. Ask me how I know. So you'll have those trajectories. You'll have things like, okay, well now, I'm moving from an employer, and you have to think about what those transitions look like. So it's really just a matter of planning and having a series of steps. And it's not like, okay, I'm just going to take the leap. It's like, no, I've done the things. And you should feel nervous but not terrified when you're ready to do that. You're still going to have nerves about it, but we'll be glad to talk with you through how to actually outline what those milestones look like.
Yeah, so about kind of keeping it fresh, or keep on bringing in money, kind of like edition 1, 2, 3, maybe yearly, or maybe I don't know how much work that would be to do a yearly, all 50 states, but that would be one way. And if I do additions, it probably wouldn't be, the 2025, because then, if you still have some left over and you're still trying to sell them into 2026, then you have a dated product. But you kind of say, all right, edition 1, and then when that edition's ready to kind of get updated, then you kind of update it.
Yeah. And then you're probably looking at, you're looking at more significant sponsors and things that aren't going somewhere. So like if I think locally in Pennsylvania, Knoebels, been around a long time, probably not going anywhere anytime soon. And somebody who has the ability to, it's not going to be $200 to do a state edition, right? Because you're going to be doing really highlights around a state. And so it's probably a higher dollar amount for a certain print run. Maybe it's for a print of 10,000 or 2,000 or whatever that is, and then you're scaling that by the print number. I just think it's something for you to really strategically think about, because you're not going to produce these all the time, but you will have to reproduce them, and you can't really, it can't be like a one-time fee, in my opinion.
Well, my thought with the state decks, and I can always change this because I change my opinion a lot, but but I saw these scratch-off cards on Facebook, and they're advertising the heck out of these, and that's what I want to do with my deck, my Pennsylvania, my state decks, and they're selling it for $65, and all they are 50. They're not even playable playing cards. They're just a deck of 50 cards, and you scratch it off. It gives you how Susquehanna Valley, don't know what I'm doing, scratch it off. It's like, oh, I got to spend, money at Knoebels, or I got to, go to Hershey Park, or not that Hershey Park's in Susquehanna Valley, but that's some of the things I've been kind of investigating that company. It's like, one was a helicopter ride. I spent $65 on a deck of cards, scratch it off, and I got to pay $200 for a helicopter ride. It's like, I don't know. So what I'm thinking with the state cards, and I've sold local history decks before for $10, but that was back in 2017. I think these, especially with the tourism aspect, where it's like, hey, every weekend for the year, I know what I'm doing, or at least have some suggestion of what I'm doing. I'd pay $20 for this, I think. So.
Okay, I'm going to ask kind of. Sorry, I had complete confidence in you. I didn't even give you a target. I'm just like, this general area, and I'll make it work. So I have kind of a conceptual question for you. Mm-hmm. Do you get a lot of passion out of finding the things in the scavenger hunt, or creating the cards for the scavenger hunt?
Personally, I like, creating the cards, creating the product. That's why I have a pizza box in front of me, too. It's like, I've done tarot cards, I've done playing cards, I've done leather goods. I just like creating stuff.
So that ties into kind of my, that was a leading question.
Okay.
Depending on how you answer, the second question is going to be different. But if your passion is making the cards more than it is finding the destinations, does it make sense to focus on finding allies, finding visitors bureaus, finding the PA Wilds type things, where they're driving a lot of the content of the cards, and you're making them a marketing, and then that way tying into that, because I heard you say a lot of times the work and creating, the work and finding, we're pushing that R&D onto a nonprofit, we're pushing that R&D onto a partner, and you're getting that updated revenue from them doing a lot of the work and you creating a service, and you're pushing yourself into more of a service model, which is a lot more sustainable with your client, with your employee numbers, rather than an R&D model.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I do agree with that, because with that Pennsylvania deck I'm doing, I have the visitor center down in State College, Happy Valley or whatever, so they're already on board with the project. And like I said, PA Wilds, they wanted to do their own deck, so right there would be, and
that's perfect, because then they're in charge of updating, marketing, selling it. You're creating and pulling money off of their labor source. I think that would be actually a very interesting business model moving into it, especially at the beginning. And when you're looking at states, like looking at their visitors bureau, what did they want to promote? So you're not unless you want to drive to Montana and figure out all the cool places to go.
It's fun to research too, but one reason, and that was kind of a thought too, was to kind of partner with Chamber of Commerce with like these pizza boxes, which I'm kind of in the process of doing with the Williamsport Chamber of Commerce. But the reason why I'm not super excited about it is because, for me, when I did this in June, I took 5 days off of work and raised $12,000 and had this going. Williamsport, they've had this project since June, and I'm like emailing, what's the progress? Because they're selling the ads, and it's like, all right, sometimes to get the ball rolling, sometimes you have to be the one rolling the ball.
I think visitors bureaus are your.
Oh, yeah, probably, yeah.
So, Robert, thanks again for sharing your story here. I don't have a question yet, probably a little bit later, but I wanted to offer one note of reassurance by a quick exercise of community building. As Amber was talking about her entrepreneurial experience that first year of starting a business and building on your, I sense some anxiety for the future of when is it the right time to leave a job to being your own boss. Just wanted to engage our audience for a moment. I look at the three people closest to me. They have that experience. Show of hands, who has done that? Who has started? Okay. So, Robert, you've got a community here.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Who is, and keep your hand up if this is also relevant for you, who is on that path, working on starting? Okay. Everyone is. Yeah. Yes. So even more. So you're in the right place. You're connecting with the right community.
Yep, that's good.
Next, please.
Actually, a follow-up to the other question that was asked. So do you prefer working directly working with DMOs like visitor bureaus, or do you prefer making the product and marketing and selling it yourself?
I mean, just based on the experience I've had with the chamber in Williamsport, it's like sometimes it feels like the ball's out of my court, and then I lose control out of what I want to do. But I mean, if I could rein people in and conform to what I want, then I suppose working with others would be good.
So what sort of challenges? What sort of challenges do you face? What sort of challenges do you face, though, working directly? Like you mentioned, incorporating local retailers on your cards. Do you find any challenges with that, or is that natural?
My challenge. Was that the full question?
That was the second part.
Oh, the second part. Yeah. Yeah. My challenge with dealing with retailers is, well, I'm obviously not a good public speaker. I'm socially awkward, all this stuff. So I don't like going in and say, hey, I have something to sell you. You get really dirty looks when you go into a business. But a lot of times when you show them the innovation and the uniqueness of what you're trying to sell them, it sells itself. But when you're doing it like the state deck, it's like I probably sent 100 emails to make, $2,000, where, that's maybe 7 people responded to me out of 100. So you're not getting the response as if you're going there physically. Like if I could physically go around and do it, I probably could have $10,000 by this time. But I'm not a salesperson. I don't like doing sales, and that would be the first person I hire if I can afford someone.
And what are your retail outlets that you currently using for distributing? Your
The
sales?
retail outlets for the scavenger hunt for T-Ross. I went around to the different local businesses and said, this is what we want to do. So that's how I got them on board. And they're giving the cards out for free, so they're not selling them. In the past, I've done playing cards with since 2013. I've done Titanic playing cards and different history playing cards. And I normally work with like Murphy's Magic. And back in 2019, right before things kind of hit the poop hit the fan there, Murphy's Magic, they gave me a $15,000 order for these history cards. And it was like history of African American culture in America, history of U.S. presidents, history of, innovation and so forth. There was about 10 different decks I produced. But there it took more than, they gave me a $15,000 order, which, out of that, they got 24 decks of each title, which then I had, a lot of leftover to sell. And I thought, I'll be able to sell this easy. But then COVID happened, museum shut down because I designed them. I had some cards in the Smithsonian, And the plan was to get these cards in the Smithsonian and make some bank, but with COVID, they kind of changed my plans, and they sat in my basement for quite some time. That's why I like a print-on-demand model a little bit better.
And do you design all the content yourself?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Jody. I have Joy and Smiles Gifts. I know the hardest part of working with people is they're not doing what you're asking. But I think communication with who you're working with is going to be the key. Making sure you set boundaries and that you set dates, that you both understand that this is a solid date. So like as you're working with Williamsport, I think was the example you gave, that Williamsport's not turning things in. When you first set things up with a company or a place like the Visitors Bureau, you guys need to have a timeline set initially, and that communication is, this is what I'll do, and then a check-in, this is the timeline, and it can be the same kind of timeline and communication through every single people that you work with. So, whether it's through Williamsport or Colorado's Visitors Bureau, you need to have something set up. And I recommend that you work with ChatGPT or an AI that helps you kind of think that through. And then it'll make you feel better because this is the timeline that's happening. So open communication. I can't stress that enough on what your expectations is, what their expectation is. And it can be done through an email once you get information. You can't obviously do that through a business, but through a business bureau and, different things like that. So ChatGPT is like the bomb.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you're working with AI, but I'll just
yep.
be like, hey, Al, because I named him Al. and I'll be like, I've got this idea. Can you clean it up for me? And Al comes through, and I'm like, I don't like that so much. Can you do it a little differently? And, so you need to start a conversation with Al or whoever you want to call it. So, yeah, Al, because it looks like Al. So.
But, yeah, I agree with you. Probably if I had more of a concrete model, it's like, if you want to work with me, this is what you need to do, and this is what I'm going to be doing. Because I have, like in the past, like 2017 or 2018, it was a local newspaper, and they wanted to do a deck of cards, and they wanted to sell advertising, which is great, but they sold advertising on the front of the card and also on the back of the card. I'm like, that's not going to work as a deck of cards, because if you have, like, I don't know, say Pudgy's Pizza advertising on the back, and that's like the ace of spades, well, people are going to know, oh, Pudgy's Pizza is the ace of spades, but, you try and tell them, and they don't understand.
Yeah, like I said, communication. So having an example and setting expectations, that would be huge, and it would take a lot of pressure off you. So.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Last question, Mark?
Yep. Oh, last question. I get the last question. Yeah, commenting question. So I think it's amazing. I think what you're doing is incredible. I think tying a couple pieces together, you mentioned like what you really like to do. And also I'm thinking about PA Wilds. I know them well. In some cases, they're going to be the rarity, right? The group that really has like all the places together and their thoughts about what they should do, and can kind of do their own deck. I think there's probably then this other bigger market where people are just freaking clueless, right? They just know they want an experience, but they're kind of like, we just really need help building that experience. So to Jody's point, I think, so the point of like staying in the lane you want to be in, like producing the cards. And then to Jody's point in terms of getting assistance, and you said about sales and marketing, I would actually say, I don't think sales and marketing is your first hire. I would suggest more of an ops view, like somebody who can really kind of do the pragmatic work, somebody who's going to like chase down the next steps for you, because that is draining, and it's very like, it's time consuming from your perspective, right? So somebody can help walk through the pragmatic work to get things done, especially for that group that's clueless, that just really wants the experience. And in order to do that, it's about process. I think you have a really great opportunity to build almost like a canvas experience when somebody says, we don't know where to start. And you can literally give them like a canvas that says, if you go through all these steps, and my assistant will help walk you through all of those steps, and you fill in the blanks with everything that we need from you, then we produce. And then that to me is kind of like an upsell. Like what if you need that service, we can sell that to you at X. And I think your $15,000 price point is one of those price points where I think that's probably low for a design experience. Like if you're designing that experience for them and you're creating and producing that experience, I think you have a different price point than say somebody like PA Wilds who comes in and says, we're going to give you everything you produce. I think those are, consider those as being different price points. And then I think just adding that pragmatic process, and I'd be happy to sit down with you and talk to you about some of the things we do that may be applicable to what you're looking to do.
Right.
So there wasn't a question in there, sorry.
Yeah.
But
That's right.
so I will ask a question. How did you enjoy presenting today?
Oh, yeah. Well, really good. My heart felt like it was coming out of my chest. But
Perfect.
All right, round of applause for our